President, Rotary International President, Barry Racine, past district governor, and soon to be the chair of Rotary International's membership committee, David Edwards, past district governors, friends, Rotarians, Rotaractors. I'm delighted to see so many of you here this evening, and welcome to you all. I noticed that we have Rotarians from Jamaica. We have Rotaractors as well. And I thought that we would not get too many of them tonight as they have their own training session in progress. But it is wonderful to see you. I would just like, as is my habit, to recognize the passing of past Rotary International President Frank Devlin, who passed away this week. A great loss to Rotary, a great humanitarian, a wonderful person. I met him and he talks to everybody at every level of Rotary, or he used to. Great loss to Rotary, but it's life. So just wanted to recognize that. And in having said that now, it is my great honor and privilege to introduce the man who will introduce past President Barry, and that man is none other than past District Governor David Edwards. And you will need to unmute, my friend. We need to unmute you somehow.
Okay,
Gotcha.
I'm there now. Yeah, couldn't get myself unmuted. The host had to. Thanks, DG Lyle, and good afternoon, good evening to everyone. It really is a pleasure to be asked to introduce past International President Barry. It could be dangerous though to ask me to do that because he told me not to. He told me not to do any official introduction, to do a personal one, and that could be dangerous, very dangerous. But I will try to be as good as possible to him. I believe a lot of you know Barry, having met him, even if virtually in the last couple of weeks, some of you, but a lot of you would have known him from before. Barry has been an excellent friend of this district and a lot of us, going back long before he was their president or anything like that. He always helped us. I have called on him many times to do. Many years ago, a club had some problems. I wouldn't name the club, but a club in our district had some problems, and they wanted a little pep talk from someone. I called Barry, and I called him one Saturday morning, and the next Saturday morning, he and I were at that club with Barry. He spent the whole day sitting on the corner of a desk, giving him a pep talk, or a little more than pep sometimes. And the club has moved from strength to strength from that day on. Thanks, Barry. They still appreciate it. But that's the type of person Barry is, and never one who is looking to be anything more than just Barry Racine. And that's why he told me tonight not to introduce him officially, because he's a team player. I can speak to that. I've had the pleasure and the privilege to work with him. He has always included me and John Smarts. We have been a team for longer than I want to admit, but we have come through a lot, and it's always Barry has never, other than shared and done everything as teamwork. He's never micromanaged us or done anything like that. It's always a team player, even when he was the president and could have done much differently. He always allowed us to do what we had to do, and gave us still considered us as persons doing our job, and not him being only the boss. We were all still friends. That's the Barry Racine I know. Him and Esther, his rock behind, who is never on the camera on nights like this, but I'm sure keeping check on Barry and making sure he gets his off time, because right now she said he's having too much on time on the Zoom. He's zooming from morning, noon, and night. So I think he's now starting to take weekends off from when PEX is ended. So I hope he sticks to that. And I'll leave it there and leave you with one just jovial part of Barry, since he says to do it personal. Barry and I have been very involved in hurricane relief and disaster relief. So when a hurricane was passing through Bahamas about maybe 6 years ago, Barry had just moved into his new house, and we were in touch and blah, blah, blah all afternoon at any rate when the hurricane was coming. So he says, you have everything covered? Yeah, done. Everything done? Yeah. You turn off all the things? Yes. Turn off all the things? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Only thing is, he also turned off the gas in the stove. So when the hurricane was blowing, you couldn't cook or do anything inside. You turned off everything. Barry, welcome to District 7030. Thanks for all you've done for us before, and I'm still doing every afternoon you're on for pets. We really appreciate that, and thank you for being tonight's golden nugget. So over to you.
Thank you, David. Thank you so much. It's, you know, I always feel like 7030 is my other district. I am going to tell you, I am so proud of 7020 and 7030 and where we stand together in the Rotary world. We're very strong, and we have just a great reputation around the world, and that's super. But David, thank you for that introduction. Yeah, I'll never forget turning off the generator so there was no gas 2 minutes before my wife decided to make breakfast. Yeah, she still remembers that herself. I'm trying to hope she forgets. And yeah, it's so true that David, John, and I were a great team, and our spouses, Donna, Cindy, and Esther, we worked so well together, and I didn't have to think twice. Everybody just did what they were supposed to do. You know, I give a lot of credit to them for any success that Rotary had last year. It truly was a team effort. And it kind of takes me into the whole discussion tonight. What I want to talk a little about is leadership. Because every one of you on this call, 152 individuals, are leaders. You're here because you are a leader. Whatever profession, culture you come from, whatever island or country you come from, your club said, hey, you're a leader. We want you to help us and develop our club. So I want to talk a little more about leadership. One is, you heard David said, when you give somebody a job, let them do the job. Don't interfere constantly, but pick the right person, make sure they know what they're doing, and then let them do it. That gives you time to do a lot of other things. But I want to quote from a book called The Radical Leap, L-E-A-P. It's a book written by Stephen Farber. And I have his permission because I went to his, he does a, what does he call it? He does a conference every year. And he doesn't call it a conference, he calls it an experience. And he has a 2-3 day leadership experience in California. And this year he invited me to speak at that. And he spoke in Hamburg last year about his concepts of leadership. And so as I was on stage at his place, I apologize that I'm always using his terminology for the radical leap without permission. So he gave me permission publicly, so I'm good now. But I'm going to change it up a little tonight. Instead of LEAP, which is an acronym, of course, I'm going to say use the acronym I-LEAP, I-L-E-A-P, because I want to add a little more to the leadership thought. The I stands for integrity. We are known around the world as an organization that integrity is one of our core values. And I'm sure over the last 14 sessions, you've heard about our core values. Integrity is a key part of that. We're one of the few organizations in the world that is known for integrity. As leaders in Rotary, it's your job to make sure you keep that reputation of integrity. That means we have to be transparent about what we do with our finances, and it means we have to be accountable for every dollar we earn. Whether it's money that we've got from our club members as dues or fines, we have to be accountable. They all have to know exactly where every dollar goes. If we're collecting from the public, we promise the public when they give us money that we will take care of it. And we will tell them how we used it. And we need to stick to that. That's how we develop this amazing reputation for being an organization that believes in integrity. When this pandemic comes along, a lot of people came to us and said, hey, you're Rotary. We can trust you. We don't know who else to give the money to, and we need to do this quickly. So here, Rotary, use this money and go do it. And it comes in because they believe in us as being people of integrity. So remember that financial reporting, that budgeting, you know, I know we have a wonderful accounting person talking tonight who loves finance, but many of us aren't so excited about finance. And I understand that, but maintain that accountability and transparency. Just get a partner along with you who's going to make sure that happens. So that's the I, it's for integrity and financial fiscal responsibility. The L is for love. And to me, a leader who really shows how strong they are is a person who cares for other people and shows them he cares or she cares. And not just caring about our community and people around the world who need our help, but caring for each other as members of our club, caring for our Rotaractors, and the Rotaractors caring for Rotarians. That ability to have empathy and caring brings respect from other people. You know, in 50 years ago, a lot of people looked at, oh, if anybody thinks I care or I have love, then that means I'm soft. No, that means you truly are the person you need to be. That means you're a leader because you could show you care about other people. The E stands for enthusiasm, energy. You know, I'm a believer that if you show amazing energy and enthusiasm in everything you do, you excite the people around you. And when they get excited, they want to support you and they want to do more and more to get the job done that we need to get done. You need to show your clubs that kind of enthusiasm. Presidents-elect, when you stand up on July 1st or the first meeting of the year as president in front of your club, I'm asking you right now to show them more enthusiasm than they've ever seen from you. Watch them sit back and say, whoa, what happened to him? Or what happened to her? And they're going to follow you to the end because they see that you have a passion for leading them to doing the right thing. So enthusiasm, very important. The A is for audacity. We need to get more audacious in Rotary. I think we've thought too small in the past, with the exception of polio. Thinking we're going to eradicate polio off the face of the earth, that was audacious. And we're still doing it 35 years later. That is audacious. Totally agree. But too often we're doing little things. And I'm not saying stop the little things because they're important as well. But let's think big. You've heard about the water program that we're doing in Haiti. We didn't say, let's bring another well to another community. We said, let's bring fresh water to every citizen of the country. That's audacious. Some would say that's insane. I happen to believe if you believe in something strong enough and you have the enthusiasm and you care about people, you can be audacious and you know you're going to get it done. And yeah, in Rotary, we quite often think, okay, this is what I can do in a year. With our water program in Haiti, this is something we're going to get done in 12 years. That's audacious. This is probably $2.3 billion. That's audacious. But you know, it's all the old story. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So we can get there. We just do it in small increments along the way. We've already started 3 communes in the country. This week we interviewed for an executive director who we're going to pay to run the program. Again, it's audacious. We don't normally do that in Rotary. We as volunteers do what we can do with the time we have. We need somebody full-time to do a project this big. So we're going to find some money to pay somebody full-time to run it and take it where it needs to go. So think audacious. What can your club do that's bigger than ever done before? We can do that because when Rotarians set their mind to it, you know, people told us we were crazy back in the 80s. You can't possibly eradicate polio. WHO told a president of Rotary International, no, we're not going to be your partner because you can't do that. So Rotary went to Cuba and immunized everybody in Cuba, went back to WHO and said, see, we can do it in another country. We already did the Philippines. And WHO said, you know, yeah, we're going to partner with you. We're going to do this. So be audacious. Rotary and Rotarians are creative, innovative people with the right people at the right place to do the right things. And finally, the P is for proof. Proof, you know, doesn't jump out at you what that means, but what that is leading by example. As a leader of your club, whether it's the treasurer or the secretary, a past president or secretary, a past district governor, you are the individuals have to lead by example. You have to do it first. So if you want your club to donate to the Rotary Foundation, Rotary every year, if you want that, then you got to do it yourself. You know, Charles Seeley, our governor-elect, said, I'm asking for more major donors. He went out and became a major donor. And I have his stuff right here. I don't think he knows that I'm going to present it to him. But that's leading by example. Now he can go out and say, look, I've done it. More of you can do it as well. And use points. There's lots of ways to do that. You know, what I do, I have a whole bunch of points racked up. And if anybody wants to put $500 in to get a Paul Harris, I can give them 500 points and they got a Paul Harris. Why not? You know, that's $500 more for the foundation. And I got to tell you right now, the foundation is really in trouble. Not trouble, that's the wrong word. Don't quote me on that. But the foundation has completed its World Fund. We're out of money in the World Fund for this year, not for the long time. We got lots of money in the bank, okay? But for the World Fund this year to support global grants, we've depleted it because we immediately injected into the COVID-19 projects, and we put some $17 million already within 6 weeks out into the world. And that's fantastic. We should be doing that. So that cycle will start again July 1st, and we've got lots of global grant applications for that. So I urge you as leaders, remember that, if nothing else about leadership, remember that I lead. I, integrity, love, and energy, enthusiasm, audacity, and proof. That will make you the best leader your clubs have ever seen. And you can walk away next year, not saying, I survived the year, but saying, we had a great year in my club. And it's because my Rotarian and helping our organization to continue to be the best humanitarian organization on this planet. Thank you.
Thank you, past Rotary International President Barry. Always an inspiration, and thank you for your words of wisdom. To get on with the presentation tonight, our guest speaker this evening is Joel Crocker. Joel is a Rotarian for the past 6 years and is the present president of the Rotary Club of Grosley Lane, St. Lucia. He has served as treasurer for 2 years, secretary, and on other committees. He's a Paul Harris Fellow +3 and has played a leading role in organizing his club's major annual fundraising event, which is a charity golf tournament. He will be serving for all of his good work as a district treasurer next year under District Governor-elect Lyle Chase. For the past 19 years, Joel has been a partner of McClellan and Associates, a leading Caribbean-based consultancy in hotel and resort development. His area of expertise is financial modeling and hotel valuation and appraisals. Prior to joining the firm, he was in a senior management position for 12 years with a large all-inclusive resort and some smaller boutique hotels in the Caribbean. He holds a bachelor's of mathematics and trained with Ernst Young in Canada. Joel is currently the warden for Canada, and I understand he's been doing a lot of work over the last few days with the repatriation of some Canadians in St. Lucia. And outside of work and Rotary, and I don't know where he gets the time, his interests include aviation, music, and learning new stuff. Fellow Rotarians, let us warmly welcome our District Treasurer-elect, Joel Crocker.
Merci beaucoup, Nigel. Bonsoir, mes amis, Guadeloupe et Martinique. J'espère que vous êtes bien. Okay, that's all the French I have for this evening. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us. This evening's topic was supposed to be naked financial management. Unfortunately, when I turned my video on earlier, the organizers told me that I had to put my clothes back on. So I just would like it to be known that I did attempt to make this presentation more interesting. What I'm going to do, let me share my screen as I start. if there's any problems with video, if someone could break in and let me know. Otherwise, I will assume everything is okay. So this evening's presentation, it's not too long a presentation this evening. Sorry, I'm having some difficulty here. There we go. So I'm going to be talking about the key elements of financial management, which I've split into 4 different categories. I'm not going to be going into a whole lot of detail this evening during the presentation. However, during the question period, if anybody has any specific detail that they want, I'll be happy to deal with it at that point. So the 4 elements I'm going to be covering tonight, first of all, planning, which involves all board members led by the president. It's important that the president's goals are included, and particularly planning, the major thing is budgets. So when you're setting your budgets up, the president leads by showing what their priorities are for the year. So planning is primarily budgeting. We'll be talking about the actual execution of transactions, primarily by the treasurer, recording and reporting also by the treasurer, and then monitoring by all board members as the year goes on. Before I get into those 4 sections, I just want to make clear a very important point. There's a very important distinction between the club funds and the charity funds. And we really recommend that you have separate bank accounts, that you have one just for your club account, which includes all of your membership revenues, any money that you raise from members, and all your administrative expenses, the club's administrative expenses, which I'll get into more detail in a moment. Those should all be separate from your charity account. And your charity account includes all of your donations revenue and only expenditures on specific projects, service projects that you do. Now, I'm sure during the question and answer period, this issue will probably arise. There are some people who feel that you should be able to take 10 or 15% of a project's budget as an administrative or some sort of management fee. And DG Lyle may speak to this later, but I can say that that is not sanctioned by the district. All your administrative costs should go through your club account, and only project expenditures are charged to the charity account. Basically, any money that you raise from the public should go into your charity account, should not go into your club account. So having made that distinction, I'll move now into the first section that I want to talk about, financial planning. So it's really important that you start early. You need to start before the beginning of the year. Presidents, you don't want to go into your year without a budget, because the next thing you know, it'll be September by the time you get things sorted out, and you'll have lost 2 months opportunity to make stuff happen. So work with your treasurer, and also consult with your incoming committee chairs and board members. That's really important because you get their buy-in. If they're involved from the very beginning, then they're going to feel that they have some ownership in this, and they will be much more likely to be supportive as you carry out your service projects. And that's really important that you get their input. You can use the current year as a guideline, or previous years, previous budgets. Not to say that you are bound by those, but it can help provide some initial structure as you put your budgets together. And then, as I've just said, it is important that you do separate budgets for club and for the charity account. So we'll start out just talking about the club budget. Again, this involves membership revenues and administrative expenses. One of the biggest expenses that you will have, and probably the easiest to quantify, are your Rotary International dues and your district dues to be paid. In the 2021 Rotary year, Rotary International dues will be $34.50 US per half year. Now it's important, many of you are already aware of this, but for those that are not, Rotary International does invoicing twice a year, July 1st and January 1st. So you have to budget $34.50 per member. All of these costs, by the way, are per member for both July and the following January. District dues are just billed annually, and that's $27 per year. That's invoiced in July. I should make a point here. It's not directly financial management, but it is prudent club management. It's always good to, sorry, let me preface that. Because Rotary International invoices on July 1st and January 1st, they base it on the number of members that you have on those dates. So it would be prudent to review your membership list the month before, so June and December. And if you have members that have not paid their dues, and you've spoken to them and you feel that it's not likely that they will pay your dues, if you make a decision that that you need to remove any members from your membership, if you're going to do that, it's probably best that you do that in June or December so that you're not invoiced by Rotary International the next day for those people, and you're not likely to recover it. Similarly, district dues are invoiced on July 1st. So again, if any member that you remove on June 30th, you won't be invoiced by the district for those. When you have new members joining throughout the year, Rotary International does invoice you retroactively for them. So if you have somebody that joins in September, the following January, you will get an invoice. They generally don't invoice you for the first month. If they start halfway through the month, they usually invoice from the month following the date that the person joined. The district, however, does not bill retroactively. They only bill once a year. So anyone who joins throughout the year would not be invoiced for district dues until the following year, and it would not be retroactive. They basically get their first year for free on district dues. Filling out the rest of the RI invoice, Rotary magazine subscriptions are $24 per year for the paper version and $12 US per year for the digital version. Here's an opportunity for you to save a little money if you're able to persuade your members to switch from the paper version to the digital version so that they get an email. That's, I know, is in Rotary International's best interest, because distributing things digitally is a lot less expensive than sending out paper magazines. It's also better for the environment, but it's also better financially for the club. If you have, say, 30 members in your club, you could save 12 US per member. That's 360 US extra that you have to spend on other administrative or other club expenses. So that's something to consider to encourage your members to switch from paper version to the digital version. Council and legislation fee is $1 per year, and that is also on the RI annual invoice. So in total, when you're doing your budget, you can budget between $109 for those who are on the digital version, up to $121 per member for those who get the paper magazine version. As I say, that's usually the major or one of two major expenses for the year. So that's an easy way to start your club budget because it's easily quantifiable. If you plan on increasing your membership during the year, that's great. I mean, I think everyone obviously plans to do that. You could choose to put it in your budget if you want, or you could just choose to budget for the people that you have, because obviously if you have people joining throughout the year, you're going to be able to collect dues from them, but you won't have to pay district dues on them. So that's the first section of the club budget. Other parts of the club budget include forecasting membership dues and fees. Most clubs charge their members a higher membership due than what's payable to the district and to RI International, because you generally have other administrative expenses that you need to cover. So you again just forecast how many members you expect to have for the year times your annual membership dues and any other fees. Some clubs charge additional fees on top of dues for specific items. So I'm going to run through, I don't have a slide for this, but I'm just going to run through some of the major line items that you would have in your club budget. What I will do is I will provide provide the district with an Excel spreadsheet with a sample club budget and a sample charity budget, and I will request the assistance of my friend Rotarian Natalie from Martinique to assist me with the translation. And we'll put those on the website. We'll try for tomorrow or very early next week so that you can download an Excel spreadsheet to help you with that. But just to cover some of the typical administrative expenses, as I say, the biggest one is your RI dues and your district dues. The other major expense that most clubs have would be sending their president-elect and their secretary-elect to the district conference. And as, I mean, this year, obviously, clubs have been able, unfortunately, to save money. When I say unfortunately, since we weren't able to have a district conference this year, but that has meant that the clubs have not had to incur the travel costs, accommodation costs, and registration costs for the president-elect and the secretary-elect to go to the district conference. But that would normally, and we hope that all of you will be joining us next year in St. Lucia for an awesome district conference that we're currently planning for you. And we look forward to welcoming you, and we encourage you to budget for that. So other items in your club budget would include if you have a website, for instance, a club runner, you have an annual club runner subscription that you have to pay. We're not sure yet whether the DGE will be able to do in-person visits this year, but normally when the district governor comes to visit, you should have a small budget to cover administrative costs during his visit. Other items would just include meal costs for speakers when you have a guest speaker. If you're buying pins and trading banners, post office postage, post office box expenses, printing club brochures, that sort of thing. So that's an example. Those are some examples of administrative expenses. On the revenue side, as we said, the membership dues, you might have fines, raffle revenue, and in addition, you'd have special events, and they might include charter night celebrations, charter night dinners, maybe a Christmas dinner, a handover when you're having your handover at the end or beginning of your year. and any fellowship events where you're trying to raise money. Now, let me just touch again on this. This revenue for the club account has to be donations or revenues received from members or their spouses or families, or I guess what I would describe as close friends of Rotary, as long as you let those people know that these funds that you're raising are for your club expenses, okay? You can't go out to the public to raise money for your administrative expenses. So when I'm talking friends, I mean people that are close to, you know, that understand that this is for your club expenses, not just going out to the public and advertising an event. If you do that, any money raised from the public must go into your charity account and cannot be used for administrative expenses. Okay, so that's the club budget. Moving on to the charity budget. The charity fund, as I've made very clear then, so that includes charitable donations revenue from all sources, donors, corporate donors, individuals, any fundraising events you have, such as perhaps a telethon, golf tournament, a walkathon. All of those form your revenues for the charity budget. And then the expenses relate, of course, to your service projects. And these would be in line with the club strategic plan and the president's goals. So examples of that would be if you have a Rotaract club or an Interact club or Early Act club, those are expenses, those are service projects. Perhaps you do hampers maybe at Christmas time, or have school feeding programs, or perhaps you sponsor people to go to RILA, that's the Rotary Youth Leadership Awards. Those can be paid out of your charity account. And of course, the most expensive, sorry, not expensive, the most important expense from your charity account is your annual Rotary Foundation donation. So we encourage all the clubs to make a donation, a club donation to the Rotary Foundation. And so that would appear in your charity fund budget as well. So wrapping up financial planning and budget completion, you want to ensure that your budgets are feasible and prudent. You're not going to get the numbers exactly right, but you want what I would describe as a realistic guesstimate, a realistic guess with the best information that's available to you. You present it to the board of directors for approval, of course, and then present it to membership as part of the president's plan for the year. So the second area I want to talk about is the actual financial execution of transactions. This is pretty straightforward. This is the, obviously collecting dues from members and paying the district dues and the Rotary International dues. Very important, managing the club funds and the charity funds appropriately or separately, making sure that the expenditures which go through each of those accounts is appropriate for those accounts. And handling all cash receipts and payments, receivables and payables, and keep making sure that you keep all the invoices and receipts. Next, financial recording and reporting. Obviously maintaining records of all transactions. I put including cash here. When you have events, quite often you're collecting cash from the public, and sometimes you have expenses to pay during the event. For instance, entertainment, or you might have a DJ, or other expenses that you pay in cash out of the cash that you receive. It's really important that those transactions are recorded, so that you record all of the revenue that you collect and record the specific expenses that you pay out, rather than just recording the net amount without showing what those expenses are. Using software where possible. A lot of clubs use QuickBooks. Most clubs, or at least most smaller clubs, could probably even just use Excel or some other spreadsheet program if your accounts are not too complex. And then keep all receipts and invoices. Very important. Later in a few minutes, we'll be talking about administration of grants. You need to have, for district grants, at least your accounts reviewed, and for global grants, to have your accounts actually audited. If you have a professional to come and do that review or that audit, you need to have all of your receipts and invoices to show them so that they can carry out the assignment. As well, performing monthly bank statement reconciliations and then producing an income statement. Now, I'm old school, so I knew them as an income statement and a balance sheet. Younger people in the accounting profession and well, more current people in the accounting profession know them as a statement of financial position. I'm not getting into the detail here because, for one thing, I believe in the French territories, there's a different format that is used. It may not be the same as what we use in English-speaking territories. But again, if needed, I can also put examples. In fact, I will do that. When I put examples of the budget in an Excel spreadsheet, I'll put a sample income statement and balance sheet that you can access. And then section D, financial monitoring, obviously just ensuring the club follows its budgets. Having said that, throughout the year, different things happen, and it's important that you update your budgets as needed as circumstances change. Obviously, at the beginning of this year, we didn't foresee any expenditure for something called COVID, because none of us had heard of it last July. So you may decide partway through the year that you have a new project that you want to take on. So you need to update, well, you should update your budget so that your accounts are in line with your budget for the year. And then provide regular updates to your club and to the board as part of the monitoring process. So those are the 4 areas I wanted to speak to about. There's a few special considerations that I just want to cover before I wrap up here. Apologies to the translator because I sometimes talk too fast because I forget that you're attempting to do this as we go. I don't know how you do that. Management and receipt of disbursement of any district or global grant funds. So we really recommend you use separate bank accounts. The district does not insist on it, but it is compulsory for global grants from the Rotary Foundation, and their reporting standards are strict. Again, this ties back to what I was saying earlier about the audit. It's important. You need to have an audit done in order to qualify for a global grant. Compliance with local laws. I want to be clear here. We're not here to advise you on legal structure or financial reporting. We encourage you to consult professionals with local expertise in your jurisdiction. I know, for instance, that Trinidad has specific laws with respect to the registration of nonprofits. There's also, in many jurisdictions, you have the option of incorporating your club, and that may be required, or there may be some benefit to do so. And in some jurisdictions, you may have to file with the tax authority. We can't advise, the district cannot advise you on that, but we encourage you to consult professionals with local expertise in your area. It's Another point is that it's important that you have a coordinated financial handover from year to year. Obviously, every year we have an overlap because not all of the invoices are in before the end of the year, and the accounts have to be finalized after the end of the year. So you've already started the next year. It's not uncommon for invoices to come in at the beginning of your year that pertain to the previous year. Obviously, those invoices have to be paid, but they should be put through the prior year's accounts so that it doesn't penalize the current year's board. But that's an accounting entry, and that's just a case of setting up a payable at the end of the one financial year, which is then paid off in the current financial year, but doesn't impact the income statement of the current financial year. And one separate point, again, this is not strictly to do with financial management, but rather, obviously, we encourage all of our members to make donations to the Rotary Foundation. We've found in our club, and I'm sure we're not unique, that some members don't feel comfortable doing online transactions with credit card. Sometimes it's your older members, and they would rather just write a check to the club. The Rotary Foundation, I think it was about 2 years ago, made this type of transaction much easier. It is much easier to make donations on behalf of other members. That way, when the treasurer, for instance, can go online and put a donation on his credit card, but then it's very easy to assign that to a particular member so that that member gets credit for their donation, but they didn't have to do it directly with Rotary International. Okay, and that wraps up my presentation. As I say, I was dealing with things on a fairly high level. I hope that I'm not the only one who's still awake. And I will now unshare my screen, if I can do that. Screen sharing stopped, yes. And now I will hand back to Nigel.
Right, well, Joel, thank you very much, but there are some questions. The first one is from Karen. Do members have to approve the budget? Some of the long-standing Rotarians in our club think so. Is this correct?
Okay, the budget definitely has to be approved by the board because the board has the authority. It's the board that has the authority to approve specific expenditures. I don't believe, and DG Lyle can jump in and correct me if I'm wrong here, I don't believe that the membership is, the approval of the membership is required for a budget, but we're all Rotarians and we're all working on the same team, and so I would certainly recommend that the budget be shared with the membership. And if there are significant concerns on behalf of members about any particular expenditure, I would recommend that the board, that the leadership of the club reconsider whatever action it is they had planned to maintain the harmony within the club. But as far as I know, specifically, it is not a requirement that the budget be approved by the membership.
Okay, the next question comes from Alistair Rollins. He wants to know, which account do we pay the audit from?
That would, that's a good question. I mean, that generally would be an administrative expense, a club expense, and would come out of the club account. Although a global grant does require an audit, I'm not aware that they allow that fee to be deducted from the grant itself. It's expected that the club pays for the audit to show that their accounts are in order.
Okay, this other one now, again, it's from Arlene. Can district grants be accessed even if the club hasn't done a recent audit?
The district doesn't require an actual audit, but they do require that the accounts be completed and reviewed. It doesn't necessarily need to be a full audit by a professional accounting firm, because that can get quite expensive unless you happen to have an auditor who is willing to do that at a reduced fee. But you do need to be able to confirm that your accounts have been reviewed.
Okay, and the next question is, can the club...
Sorry, Nigel. I'm sorry, Nigel,
Yeah.
to interrupt. Let me be, the next question will be, what's the difference between an audit and a review? When I say a review, I mean, that can be any, it should be somebody who's not a member of the club, but ideally, but someone who reviews it, and it's not necessary to have a formal report, but some confirmation that an independent person has reviewed the accounts and feels that they're in order. If you can't get someone outside of the club, it could be someone within the club with accounting experience or an accounting designation, preferably someone who's not on the board, again, just so that it reinforces that independence. Sorry to interrupt, go ahead.
Okay, well, you answered the next question, so that's good.
Okay, okay.
Can the district account be paid, the district dues be paid by credit card like RI dues? Is any facility being made for that?
We don't currently have a facility to accept payments by credit card. DG Lyle, I'm not sure, you and I hadn't discussed that.
No, but we will have to check with the finance chair whether that has been instituted, but I'm unaware of it.
I'll make a note of it.
Okay, the next question is, when will the district account be opened and the details available for payment of dues?
I will answer that one again. The account is already open. We now are maintaining the same account from 1 year to the next. So the account is actually the same account as this year, which is right now maintained in St. Kitts at Republic Bank. And arrangements will be made with Republic Bank, St. Lucia for next year, so that we will have seamless operations going forward. But the account is open, and that is the account from this year.
Okay, thank you very much, DG Lyle. And Joel, you thought people weren't listening, but there's another one from Navin now. Income statements and balance sheet requirements is quarterly and half yearly. Is it ideally reported to the board or to the club members in a general meeting?
Well, it has to be reported to the board because the board really is responsible for reviewing the financial management and position of the club. And it's certainly encouraged to share that with the membership. The members do have the right to see that. So I would suggest that it should be shared at least once a year with the membership. If it's being done more frequently, I don't see any reason why it can't be shared with the membership.
Okay, and this one is for past RI President Barry. Can you share with us RI's view, opinions, position, on either commingling the funds between club accounts and club taking a percentage of the project's fundraising revenue as administrative costs and putting towards admin income?
I'd be happy to speak to that, Nigel, and thank you for the question. You know, there's a lot of things Rotary feels we should be flexible with. This isn't one of them. The clubs, should maintain different accounts. Any monies we raise from the public should only be in an account for that money, so that the publicly raised money is always kept separately and always spent on what you say it's going to be spent for community service. There should not be any intermingling of accounts. The reason for the club account is so that you raise funds, whether it's from fines from sergeants or dues for the club, that you have money to run your club. That's where you take care of all the administrative costs. And you don't pull a percentage of your fundraiser into administrative cost. When you have a fundraiser, there are some costs, and those costs, if you do a golf tournament as an example, what you pay for the signs for the golf tournament would come out of that revenue, but only the direct cost for that project, so that it's isolated into one. We actually have a different account as much as we can for each major project that we have, so that we can truly isolate the project. We absolutely do not commingle funds. We absolutely do not take any percentage of our monies that we raise from our community. That's how we maintain our transparency and our accountability for every dollar we raise from them. And then we raise funds within the club to take care of our administrative costs.
Pass. All right, President, thank you for that clarification, because it's been asked several times on several platforms, and now you've heard it from the top. So that reinforces what we've been seeing for years. Thank you. Back to you, Joel. Joel, you are one of the most sought after answers here. The know your customer requirements. Does a club have the additional responsibility to know who the customer is making the donation?
That's a good question. I mean, most of us operating on smaller islands. We know the people that we're dealing with, and we're generally dealing with smaller amounts. It's not significant amounts. As far as I know, and again, Past President Barry or DG Lyle, jump in and correct me if I'm wrong. I don't believe Rotary International has specific KYC requirements, but and if they don't, I'm assuming that they don't, I think it's very much a case of using your best judgment. If you have concerns about a source, particularly if it's a significant amount of money, then we would strongly recommend that you undertake some due diligence, whatever you can do about the source. Past President Barry or DG Lyle, if you wanted to add anything to that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, because it really is a local problem, a local issue, and it can be different in different parts of the world. I'll give you one example. Right here in Nassau, we had a numbers house. I don't know if you have numbers there, but we have this. It's a gambling house. We have a lot of gambling houses. Up until 2 years ago, it was illegal to gamble, but they existed, and Bahamians did it. We all knew they did it. I'm sure even the members of parliament did it, but it was illegal. So when a numbers man came to us and said, "I'll give you $100,000 for your project," we said no. It was hard to say no, but we knew that it was illegally obtained, even though acceptable, but illegal. So we said no. We don't. Again, it goes back to our reputation for integrity. And if you always keep the spirit of that in mind, then let's make sure the money we receive is clean money and that we're using it for good reason.
Thank you very much, Barry. Another question here for you, Joel. Can the financials be prepared on a cash basis, or is it mandatory to be prepared on an accrual basis?
Okay, that's getting into a more technical issue. Most clubs, I think, operate on a cash basis, because we're not talking about significant amounts, but there are certain things that you should accrue. If you have, I'm trying to think, maybe insurance that's split over 2 years, if you know, assuming your treasurer is sufficiently experienced and understanding accrual accounting, and I don't want to get into too much detail on that, then again, it's really use your common sense. If it's worth accruing, if it's a major amount, then you should do so. But I think most transactions would be on a cash basis.
Okay, we have time for 2 more short questions.
I think
If I-
Lyle,
If I could
Yeah.
just jump in there, I mean, you're going to want to record your receivables if your members haven't paid you,
very true.
right? And if you owe somebody at the end of the year, you're going to want to record it. So, yeah, generally speaking, it's cash in, cash out. But at the end of your year, both at the beginning and at the end, you're going to want to account for your receivables and your payables. So that is really accrual accounting.
I thank you.
Spoken from a true accountant. Okay, we have time for 2 short ones. If the treasurer uses his credit card for facilitating payment to the foundation, can the fees associated be reimbursed? That's from
So,
Karen.
okay, so you're saying the fees any extra fees charged to the person who uses the credit card? I mean, if you're using a member's credit card, they should be made whole. No one's expecting them to, but normally there shouldn't be an extra fee for that. Is that what you're saying, or? Sorry. No, I understand the question now. Okay, I understand. When the person's credit card bill comes in, they should be reimbursed in full. And so if there's, all right, just to give an example, I'm trying to think if somebody put $100 in, if there's an issue with exchange rate, for instance, because that's something that we would have. So the credit cards company's exchange rate, then that would certainly be permissible. So if someone gave you whatever they give you in a local currency, if you can estimate what it is that the exchange rate that the credit card company would use, then yes, that difference would be deducted so that they would get credit for the net amount of the donation. I don't know if I was clear on that, sorry, but.
No, yes, I think you were. And this one is from Gert. What is the best practice for who is responsible for fundraising?
Well, each club,
account.
Sure.
The fundraising account, sorry.
Yeah, okay. The first way I'd answer that is there definitely should be someone in charge of fundraising. I know some clubs don't have a dedicated person for that, but what we do in our club is our major fundraiser every year is usually run by the president-elect, or at least the president-elect has a significant role in running the major fundraiser, because what we do is the funds that are raised at that fundraiser are then used the following year. So it's important that there be somebody in charge of specifically pushes for fundraising. If you just leave that to everybody, then it's not going to happen. But it doesn't, how each club handles it, it's really how they want to handle it. As I say, our club, generally it's the president-elect that takes a leading role in fundraising.
Okay, well, I think that's it for questions. I don't think we have, no, we don't, we're there now. So thank you very much. I would just like to ask DGN, Sonia, to please move some closing remarks tonight. Sonia, you need to unmute.
No, I had to wait for the host to unmute me, to allow me to unmute myself. Thank you very much, everybody. Joel, I've never had financial management so succinct and exciting. Thanks for not coming naked, though. Thank God. So, past Rotary International President Barry, thank you for being the golden nugget this evening, for agreeing to come to us in a different way. That acronym, ILEAP, is a great way for leaders to think, and it really shows leadership qualities if we take those words into consideration. Fellow Rotarians of District 7020 and 7030, this has been a good evening. Rotaractors as well. We've learned a lot. Joel has given us the tools to make us successful. He has promised spreadsheets, examples for us in the next few days. Please utilize them. There are many, many resources in our districts that can help. Please utilize those resources as well. This has been another successful session for us, and we look forward to many more. DGE Lyle, thanks for having me close out this evening. And I just wanted to say hi to the PDGs on the call. It's really good to see the past leaders support the present and the future. So thanks very much, everybody. Do have a great evening. See you next time.
Thank you very much, DG and Sonia, for those remarks. Thanks again to past RI President Barry for joining us this evening, and to everyone who has been here. Special thanks to the translators, PDG Hervé, Natalie and Vicky, who work so hard in the background, the survey crew, Liz and Abe, as well as Zoom coordinator Sean, without whom we would not have these meetings. Again, team, thank you very much. We have another meeting. Please check the website. Some of you have been saying that you can't get on. You need to re-register if you registered very early, because some passwords have changed. Some protocols have changed. So if you did register early, please go back onto the website. You should have an alphanumeric passcode to get in, and that will tell you that you're on to the correct one. I believe we are back on, I'm not going to say. Lyle, do you remember what day we're back on? I'm confused.
Hold on. Yep, we're back on the 2nd and the 4th.
Tuesday.
The 2nd
Okay.
and the 4th.
Okay.
Right. And
Thank
then
you
the
very
6th
much, everyone.
and the 9th. 2nd, 4th, 6th,
Right.
9th. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks a lot, DG Lyle. All the best and have a good night and weekend, everyone.